I don't buy games on their initial release. And I don't get why I should. Okay, let's define where initial release starts and ends. So I'm going to qualify it as maybe the official release day to maybe 3 months later. So going by that metric, I'm currently sitting at a position of maybe the last game that I bought on initial release happens to be Watch Dogs 2 last year. Before that, it's either Grand Theft Auto or The Last of Us. At least one of them. Yeah, that's a very... That's a very weird way of playing games for someone like me, of whom sees games as something to play no matter what. I don't know if you've noticed, but on this channel alone, I've had quite a few more newer games, but they've been keys and such. So, yeah, I would say maybe initial releases aren't my thing. Now, of course, I could just be a dick and just go on to talk about something else that makes no sense, but no, let's stick with initial releases, because there's something about games and games media currently that is all based around pre-orders or buying the game just after release. Otherwise, it's no longer a success. I get it. EA and Activision and all of them want to sell games. They're kind of in the business to do so. But does it make sense to claim it a failure if it doesn't sell 1 billion copies on day one? Not every game is going to be Grand Theft Auto. And here's the thing, to those who think that, you know, EA and Activision and all of that are right to do their thing. EA and Activision spend, what, a year, 2 years, maybe 3 at most, on their games. That's fine. Games can be made in that time. Just ask Ubisoft half the time. They tend to push out Assassin's Creed games like no one's business. Luckily, this past year they gave up on that premise, but we still had that idea about games. We have that essence around us where if you don't buy a game on initial release, what's the point? Well, I'll tell you, it's a little tiny bit cheaper. Maybe it's because I'm a bit of a stingy bastard here, but I would rather, as a consumer, be able to buy something when it's a little bit cheaper and when I want to buy it and when I know that it's liked or disliked, more than I would like to buy something. Yes, I know the answer to this would be, oh, but that's what you do as a consumer, you take the risk. But buying a game initially that I don't really have any interest in, that I don't really want to play, just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get that mentality of games where you're meant to like something just because it's new, just because it's out, just because it's Breath of the Wild. I've never played a Zelda game. Don't think I'm going to. I still wouldn't begrudge people of whom want to give Breath of the Wild 10 out of 10. Maybe they're just a little tiny bit hung up on the initial feeling of it. I mean, that's the biggest problem with aggregate scores, in my opinion. People review games instantly and give it 10 out of 10 for no good reason. It's not the perfect game because you're actually writing up 2,000 words about why you think it's good. So give it a good 7 out of 10 and it's not going to harm the game any worse than it would be at 98. So yeah, I don't get the whole, oh, but we need perfect 10 out of 10s for our games. No, you fucking don't.
Why's my threat so high?
Nonetheless, where was I? I was saying something about how games really should be seen as something you can buy a month or two down the line. I do it all the time. I mean, yeah, sure, I didn't buy Deus Ex Mankind Divided on the initial release. Why? Because I had a couple hang-ups on it. I had a couple little ideas about how the game has microtransactions. Didn't really like that. But I've played it now. I've completed it. I personally think it's one of the best games I've played this whole year. I finished Watch Dogs at the very beginning of this year. One of the best games I've played in a long time. One of the best open world games I've played in a long time. And I know that's hard to say because it's Ubisoft. Ubisoft is horrible with open world games. They make the map too full. They do stupid things by just giving you towers and towers and towers to go piss about in, and then collect sea shanties and other
Welcome to DedSec.
testicle flicking bollocks. You just have all this
I'm Satara.
guff around games at that point. You have something that is
Real talk. Thanks.
a bit too much. Now, of course, I could say, oh, but you should buy games, but I can't see a reason to spend $60 when you're half interested. I'll be honest, I'm half interested in some games quite often. I don't go and buy them instantly. I wait a while, I see a couple reviews, I have this consumer way of looking at things. I don't just decide, okay, yeah, let's buy everything. Because that just doesn't work as far as being a consumer. Now, yeah, sure, I get keys for things sometimes, and I play games before release. For example, Dungeons 3, that was a wonderful surprise, in my opinion, and yeah, that's fine. That is completely fine. I like playing games on initial release. Doesn't add anything. If anything, the only thing that it adds to my experience is being able to write up a review about it. But that's for my own monetary and otherwise gain. I have something to invest in that. Whereas, okay, let's talk about the pre-order deluxe edition thing that 2K did with WWE 2K18. That just makes no sense to me. Being able to buy the game a month before, or 6 months before, and playing the game 3 days early.
Have a good party.
What does that do? There's currently an ad, or there was an ad, the other day on American TV with, oh, if you buy here in this undescript store that I've completely forgotten about because it looked boring. Yeah. Anyway, if you buy from here, you are within a chance of winning an Xbox One S. Ooh, you get to play it early. What's the fucking point? Ooh, you get to play with an Xbox One S a bit early. Good for you. Doesn't add anything. And that's my problem. Unless this is adding something, there's no point in it. That's always my point with gameplay. If you're going to change something between Game 1 and Game 3, make sure you're improving on it, not bollocksing it up. Bollocksing it up? Yes, sure, why not? That makes sense. In my coffee-addled mind. Oh, but you get to play through the story without spoilers. You know what? If you're that bothered about spoilers, don't go online and watch people play the fucking game. Try to actively avoid spoilers. That's how most people do things. I still don't know what happens at the end of Game of Thrones, neither does anyone else really, because George R.R. Martin doesn't want to finish the fucking thing. But you get nothing out of playing the game early. Even the argument of being able to complete the story quicker. Yeah, sure, you get to complete the story quicker. But here's the secret, You would complete it anyway. You still have that game, 6 months down the line unless you trade it in, of which Microsoft tried to take out of gaming. The pricks that they are. I love buying pre-owned games because, one, it's a very pro-consumer thing. Two, I get a game that's 10 years old a bit cheap. If that game was an EA game, there would be no point in buying it. Luckily it's THQ and, well, they're defunct, so it's not as if they're going to, you know, say, cough up the money for Saints Row 2 again. I mean, is that a bad thing? Buying a game again? After the company has died and it's pre-owned? Is it a bad thing to buy a game on the cheap, if you will, to play that game again years after the company has dissolved? That just makes sense. This idea of, oh, you cannot buy pre-owned games, it is bad, ooh, naughty. Why? That just makes no fucking sense. I get it, businesses have to make money to survive. But don't you think with all the microtransactions, all the deluxe editions, all the gubbins about games now, that companies would have an extra penny or two to spare? This past month alone, hasn't Ubisoft put out the Fractured Butthole and Assassin's Creed Origins? That's two major releases in the space of what? Maybe a little while? A month? Two major games that will fly off the shelves. And companies want to proclaim that, oh, but we need the money. Yes, indie companies need more money than you, you bastards.
But now it's our follower wall.
I love some games by major publishers. Watch Dogs 2, for example. I'm watching gameplay of that right now. I love Watch Dogs 2. I think it's actually what I'm going to put in the background here, because I just like it that much.
So you remember what we're gunning for. Get enough processing power to take down Blue.
Doom, Deus Ex, all things that I've said I love. They're all very AAA. They're all very nice with their AAA gubbins. But it doesn't really improve on gameplay buying those games on the initial release. I still don't have spoilers for Doom, and I never will, because Doom isn't a game for story, in my opinion. Doom is a game for, well, jumping in and killing something. You know. Because it's Doom. The last couple days I've been playing a little bit more of WWE 2K17. Why? Because I had to record a bit for a video, and I really like the gameplay. I really like playing. It's not a treacherous hellhole to traverse with the loot boxes and the loot crates and the loot this and the loot that.
Okay, I got this.
I don't have something that is going to give me a gambling addiction. Maybe I'm the one in the minority here. Maybe I'm the one that should learn to buy games on initial release. But it always seemed like a pro-consumer thing to be able to buy a game after launch. 6 months down the line, it's a little bit cheaper. Things like that. Yeah, sure. Am I destroying EA? Oh, please, I hope so. I'm sick of EA. Would I be destroying a multinational conglomerate of which releases 12 games a year? No, of course I wouldn't. They... It's a fucking games company. 1 or 2 people buying a game a year, 2, 3 years down the line, just on the cheap, doesn't matter. But EA and Ubisoft and all the others proclaim, well, maybe not all of them proclaim, but quite a few of them seem to have this ideal sense of reality where if a game isn't making all the money in the world in the initial release period, then there's no point in making another. Square Enix, for example. Right. Deus Ex: Mankind Divided has sold about 1 million copies on PS4. That's not counting the people that bought it on Xbox One. There's quite a few people that bought it on PC. And yet still, that game was seen as a commercial failure. The head of Ubisoft, I can't remember where, but I'll try and link the article down below. He's quoted as saying, "Oh, we're going to take a bit of a break from that series because it didn't perform as well as we hoped." Maybe don't put microtransactions in every fecking game. Ya fud. That way of thinking where, it wasn't a perfect commercial success as we hoped with the microtransactions. We'll leave it for a couple years. Why? Why not see the correlation of you put in this cretinous thing and just see that that's why? Some people won't buy games when there's microtransactions in them. Personally, and maybe this is just my own personal thoughts here, but I don't, in particular, buy games on release because of that. I don't sit down and go, you know what I really need to buy right now? That game that would ask for more money. Oh, but you get day 1 DLC. Oh, really? Really, you get day 1 DLC? You know, here's the thing. I bought WWE 2K17, what, 3 or 4 months down the line? There is nowhere on this that says, oh, this is the day 1 edition, so you're paying more. I open it up, pull the little bits out, all the gubbins, the Brock Lesnar eat, sleep, repeat thing, eat, sleep, conquer, repeat sheet with WrestleMania 32. Ooh, now available from Amazon. Don't give a shite. WWE 2K17 Goldberg Pack. Got the key right here. That was day 1 DLC. That was pre-order DLC. You... what?
Hello?
Oh, but you need to pre-order it to get this. No, you fucking don't.
Who is this?
The money-grabbing bastards at 2K, EA, Activision, and
I'm a huge fan.
Bungie and other companies that I can't remember the name of will shuffle that out as
Fantastic.
something you can buy for about $3
Can I get a sample?
a week down the line. Saying that, oh, you need to buy the game now or you'd never get this content doesn't make sense. I'm pretty sure there are other people of whom got the Goldberg DLC, even though they didn't really
No one else
ask for it, even though they didn't really care for it. Yeah, sure, I've used Goldberg once or twice in the game as
I just need to know how to route.
food for Geralt, but you know,
There. That's the routing number?
bits and roundabouts and stuff. Yeah, that's how that goes.
And confirmed. Got it.
I just don't understand this mentality of buying games. This mentality of buying games in the most obscene fashion, where if it's not on day 1 or a week after, it's considered a failure.
What the shit?
Again, I love Deus Ex Mankind Divided. I think it's one of the best games I've played in a long while. But am I going to say that, oh, it was a failure just because it didn't sell as well as other games that year? Fuck no. In my eyes, that game is a very good success. One of the best success stories of 2016.
Guys, he just
Not because it's a game where
gave me a research.
you sit and have to battle microtransactions. Personally, I didn't feel that massive drag on gameplay. I didn't really buy anything. I either stole it from somebody's body or stole it from someone's underwear drawer, really. I didn't really care for the whole idea of, oh yes, we need to buy... Still a good game. Take the microtransactions out and you have a very good game. Slightly slower if you want to buy stuff. I mean, a silencer is something like... what? 12,000? 1,200? Something like that. It's ridiculous. A bit much, in my opinion, but it doesn't really matter to me. I'm not going to buy a silencer because I'm always up close with people. Yeah, sure, I could use the taser. I tend to. I could use the tranq rifle. I tend to. I don't really play a stealth game to get that, what's the best way of explaining it? Hitman feel. When I'm playing a stealth game, I'm going to, you know, be stealthy, not pull out a gun and flatten 13 different people just because, ooh, I like the colour of that bag. I've lost the plot at this point. I can't remember what I was saying. So, you know, I'm a bit mad here. I'm going to leave it there for today. I've finished my coffee. I've finished my little bit of a rant, really. So, I guess I'm done here. Tell me what you think of this pre-order culture thing that goes on. Personally, I don't understand it. I don't get the idea of having to buy the newest, coolest game just on release. Sure, if it's multiplayer, then yeah, that makes slightly more sense to buy that on release because, well, everyone else is playing at that point. It's not as if you're going to have those same people 6 months down the line. But that's because audience retention in that market is piss poor. Anyway, I've had my long rant about games. I'm gonna go play a bit more of 2K17. I'm enjoying it. Who knew beating John Cena was so much fun? I did. AJ did. You know. That's about the only two people that have buried John Cena. I buried him on, well, Geralt buried him on main event. He tapped out. Like the little bitch he is.